There are four hidden mineral deficiencies of sleep apnea that we need to talk about because even if you're breathing better, you're on a CPAP, this is something that is still going to be the reason why you still struggle to wake up and feel refreshed. You energy, it just dips in the afternoon, or a lot of times just not sleeping well, despite your breathing being okay. So it's the underlying or one of the many underlying issues to be addressed because when these four minerals that I'll mention in just a moment, they contribute to your body making melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So if you take that away, that's not good. They are also responsible for helping your neurons clean themselves out overnight. So this is an enzyme here. When that's not working, then neither is your brain. And then the biggest thing is that all of these enzymes are closely linked to energy production inside your cells. So if that's not working, then your body, your brain is also not going to be working. So that's why we're talking about this, because this is the key to getting rid of the struggle, bad sleep, and also bad mental clarity there. So, of course, this is for educational purposes only. Always talk to your doctor before doing anything, ever. But of course, you can subscribe under your own free will. So, the first one, this will be quick here. So starting with the first one, and a lot of this comes from this one paper, so check it out if you want to. And what happens in sleep apnea, and this is a central theme we'll hit on a lot, is you have big swings in oxygen that causes free radicals, and then as a result, your body has to adjust accordingly. And one of the biggest adaptations, not really an adaptation, but really like things falling apart, is the use of minerals and antioxidants. Because when you have inflammation, it is going to increase the demand of certain enzymes. When you have swings in oxygen, this will then cause damage and then different transport of metals and minerals. So the very first one has to do with copper here. So in a study, they looked at trace minerals and heavy metals in patients with obstructive sleep apnea, and they found that serum levels of copper were elevated in obstructive sleep apnea, which I know maybe some neurons went off and you thought, hey, this guy just literally talked about deficiency. Here's the thing, when your serum levels of copper are elevated, that often still means that inside of your cells, it is low. All right, because of how ceruloplasmin, the carrier protein of copper, works, and also high inflammation status, all that sort of science in between, yada yada. But just know if there are high serum copper levels in the blood, that often means it's not inside of the cells. All right, it's not the typical like, oh, it's so overflowing inside of the cells and it spills over into the blood. No, usually when copper is in the blood, that's going to typically point to lower amounts present in the cell, known as a functional deficiency, because it's a little tricky when you just measure it in your blood alone. Now, before you just stop watching this video and just go take a bunch of copper, we need to talk about the next nutrient, the next mineral, that is because it is linked to copper. All right, that's why I picked these four, because one and two are linked to each other, and so are three and four. So it's very important to think of minerals in pairs, like in twos, not inside of pear, the fruit, in case someone was confused on that. So this one is zinc here, and the ratio of these two is super, super important, especially what we're talking about here, because when you have sleep apnea, they found that zinc levels are low. And as a result, this will cause these scales to tip in a way where copper is elevated relative to zinc. And this can also result in that pattern we saw where it's elevated in the serum, right? So zinc is low. So again, the copper to zinc ratio, there's too much copper relative to zinc. And also at the same time, there's not enough overall of both. So it's a relative and a absolute thing. The big reason zinc is so important is because of this right here called HIF, hypoxia inducible factor. It is activated when you have these big swings in oxygen. Okay, that's why this image, I love it so much. It also contains this. This HIF is the main way in which all the damage from swings in oxygen translates into damage throughout your body. Like if you could take some crazy drug that completely blocked HIF, you would have way less of the symptoms and medical comorbidities, heart attacks, strokes, etc., that comes along with sleep apnea. Now, when you have low zinc, then HIF just goes wild. There's nothing, it just goes all over the place. But when zinc is high, it'll decrease the effect of HIF. So I'll say it again. Zinc deficiency will allow HIF to cause more damage. Having enough zinc will reduce the damage caused by HIF. All right, so one more time just to show for fun here. Zinc goes up, blocks HIF. Really fun. I'm not sure why I thought this diagram would really hit things home. All right, lower zinc equals more damage. I think I've said that enough. So the whole point is this ratio. So copper to zinc, typically what people say in the research literature and also on the internet sphere is 1 to 8. Copper to zinc is going to be ideal here. Now, safe to assume. Now, obviously, your individual needs are your individual needs. I don't know. This is a video, not a blood test. And of course, education, not medical advice. Most people with sleep apnea, what do we say? They're low. So if someone was to start taking copper, if they had sleep apnea, that would actually make this ratio worse. There would be way more copper relative to zinc. So you want to be very mindful of that ratio. So something you may want to consider under your physician's guidance is this sort of correction process of where you increase zinc in your diet or through supplements, and then consider copper, adding that on top. Now, there's going to be two ways to go about this. Option one is by using testing. So there's different test kits you can find out there. I don't have a preference per se, but you just test and figure out where are you. Because of course, just because a study says something doesn't mean that's what you're going to experience. So you get that test. Maybe it says, oh, hey, zinc is low, copper is high relative to zinc. And then you add in some zinc, so on and so forth. And then whether it's you can retest or under your physician's guidance, you know to add in copper at the same time. That's what you can do. The other option is just to do that without any testing and monitor symptoms and how one feels. So if you're into screenshots, you can do that there now. Moving on. Now, how to get this? Oh, let me highlight here. So zinc, does it say here? It should be zinc picolate, and then copper. Yeah, copper glycinate or copper sulfate is what I prefer. Now, if you want to do it all through food, that's cool too, because again, the whole phases are about first introducing a high copper to zinc. So the first phase is all about bringing in more zinc than copper. So first phase is all about increasing zinc to copper, thus eating foods that reflect that. Probably a smart idea here. So you can just make your favorite salad, your favorite oyster ground beef pumpkin seed salad, or just, get some oyster shears, that's a really strong ratio. And then conversely, once through some way, whether it's testing or mysticism or something in between, you would switch to high copper to zinc foods. All right. And beef liver is going to be one of them here. The other two, how much cocoa powder can you eat without going cuckoo, right? It's a real problem, When's the last time you've seen the Cocoa Puff mascot? That Coco's serious drugs. Now you thought that joke was bad. Here's a picture of Billy Mays because beyond these two minerals, because those are the ones that really deal with oxygen, the next two ones are going to deal a lot with your nerves, how muscles work. So that's super important and also can help reduce your risk of heart attack here. So the next one, if I can zoom to the right properly, all based on the idea that when you have sleep apnea, antioxidants get consumed. So anytime you see a diagram, inflammation goes up, that means your body has to produce a lot of these antioxidants, such as glutathione, right, to offset the inflammatory damage. That's as simple as that is. Thus, you'll be a little bit low in some things here. What they found in here is that selenium is particularly low, well, really just downright deficient, in people with obstructive sleep apnea. And the more severe your obstructive sleep apnea is, the lower your selenium is. This is a problem for two big reasons. One, selenium will be kind of concentrated in nerve endings. This is important because if there's too much oxidative stress in your nerves, then the muscles are not going to work as well and you just have flappy tongue syndrome. which is not a real condition, but I think if the ENT Society exists and you're listening, I think floppy tongue syndrome would be a valuable addition to the diagnostic manual. Consider it and then credit me. Nonetheless, when you have nerves that are less powerful or they're just not working, then these muscles back here, they're not going to be as activated, and then that's going to cause some problems. Other big thing is that when selenium is low, there's going to be more oxidative stress in your arteries, specifically, really blood vessels. This will cause your red blood cells to become clumpy, and then that's going to cause issues with the arterial walls. That's how you develop plaques in your heart, and that's how heart attack risk goes up when selenium is low. So having selenium, don't ever let words limit how you want to pronounce them. Here's a chart for you. There's always one thing that's kind of gross. Egg whites. This chart ain't bad. I mean, spinach is kind of gross. Liver is questionable. Brazil nuts. Let's talk about this. So Brazil nuts really wildly vary in selenium content. I know a lot of times, but wow, there's so much, but they're incredibly variable. Sometimes they are high, sometimes they're super low, and sometimes they have mycotoxins, which aren't fun in any capacity. Now, selenium is super helpful because it is connected to the next mineral, which is iodine. So let's talk about that one here, wherever it is here. So, wouldn't you believe it? Obstructive sleep apnea pretty much erodes away and destroys your thyroid gland over time. So, this is someone's T3 levels, thyroid hormone, and it just goes down and down and down. Now, taking selenium will help with this because selenium actually helps you go from T4, which is inactive thyroid hormone, to T3, which is the active variance. So that's why, like, when we're talking about iodine, including selenium with it, just like we paired copper and zinc, you want to think about pairing iodine and selenium together to have more of a positive benefit. Now, of course, talk to your doctor about iodine because it can be inappropriate based on certain thyroid issues, such as Hashimoto's. Outside of that, being able to have some can be helpful in those nerve endings again to allow muscles to function properly, but also help with your cells producing energy and offsetting a lot of the other inflammation problems. So, some sources here: cod, seaweed, milk. Milk's on this list. I don't really trust this list anymore because they probably just added the iodine to this. So, let's not count milk. We can count eggs and we'll count shrimp here. I feel this could be a game show by itself. Which one of these does not belong, right? Now, the easiest way I do this or think about this, is seaweed just on a daily basis. It's something you can easily add in, whether it's like on top of a salad or on top of, I don't know, you have some ground beef. A little bit goes a long, long way. So they use nori as an example here. There are other types that have a lot more iodine, such as kelp, dulce. Irish moss is another one. Those have way more iodine for a lot less. So whether you blend it with something or you just, down the hatch, eat it, that will go a long way. Now, make sure you get it from a place that isn't exposed to radiation. Like Maine Coast vegetables are pretty good. That's actually a brand and a great one there. So that's what I would say about iodine. Now, of course, if the breathing pattern of sleep apnea continues, you're going to just continue depleting these nutrients, right? Because yes, including them back in will help offset things, but it's kind of like pouring water into a pot that has a bunch of holes in the bottom of it. You're only going to get so far. So obviously, with helping with sleep apnea, one of the biggest things you can do is correct this breathing pattern here, where you're having a fast inhale, it's pulling those weak muscles that we talked about before. That's going to block off the airway. But if you can get it to nice and slow and steady, keeps the airway open, everything will be a lot hunky dory there. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do that. Some ways are going to be slower, like whether it's just general breathing exercises, watching all these videos. That's going to be one way you can go about it. Now, to really accelerate this, that's what I have over here for you. So this is the Peckus breathing program here, where the whole goal is giving you custom ways to improve your breathing metrics so that you can better support your breathing at night. Because when you have things that are tailored to you, your needs, your level of difficulty that you need, so you can make progress and continue to make progress. Because if you just start with the same breathing exercises, you're not going to get very far. Okay, you'll make some change, right? But you need to update your plan as you go along so you can continue to have great progress in supporting your breathing at night. So that's what this is, where we give you a step by step. You know exactly what to do. You're not second guessing. And not only do you have exactly what to do as part of your plan, you also get audio tracks. So literally, all you have to do is click, listen to your audio track, breathe along with it, and that's pretty much it. If you've always wanted to hear me count down from various numbers, this is also for you. Maybe you don't want that. I don't know, but that's part of it here. So you get that, and then of course we give you a ton of support with our live Q&As. We have our private forum, and of course, like this episode and many more, having a holistic approach to support better sleep is so critical. So we have a lot of great step-by-step bonus modules, whether we're talking about nutrition, how to get deeper sleep at a cellular level, that is all there for you. So to get that, ochnow.com/program. I think I went through all this. Is there anything I'm missing? Oh, yeah, it also has a 7-day trial risk-free for you. I should have mentioned that earlier, but oh well. That is at ochnow.com/program. I'm Dylan Peckus. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.